in the Janus community this week, or the last 2 weeks, because we haven't had a call for 2 weeks. So it'd be great if people can share any updates that they've made with, I know we've got a number of new contributions around updates to plugins, brand new plugins, what we've done in the showcase community, etc. So let's see if we could start with, I don't know if Jay is on. No, so maybe Francisco, would you mind talking about the Artifactory plugin that you started, that you contributed?
Yes. Well, as I said, it's a JFrog Artifactory plugin that basically does the same as the Quay plugin. Shows the image information on Backstage associated to an entity. That's the main functionality. And we were discussing with Tom about unifying or trying to have a common component because we are going to build more registry plugins like with Nexus, but that's something that we are going to tackle later. So for now, we are just going to create more plugins on that topic.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. I know we had at least 4 customers that were interested in that one. So that is a great contribution. Thank you very much for doing that. Curious because I know that we have ACR plugin in the backlog. Do we think, so when you guys were talking about that, were you guys thinking about doing some of that rework like after after Q2, or do you think we need to do that before Q2 ends? Do you guys have a feeling on that?
I am not sure right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Me neither. Like whatever makes sense at this point. I'm totally open to any of these options.
Yeah, I was just wondering if it made sense to do it earlier rather than later, because if we end up having like maybe 4 or 5 created before we do the rework, is that more time? That's what I was just curious of.
So what is this rework actually proposing? If you can remind me.
Weren't we at one point?
I
we were
think
talking.
I think it says like the proposal says like because we are going to have multiple OCI registries, like having a backend plugin that brings every registry together and having one front end for those. So we change the behavior based on properties instead of having multiple plugins.
Seems like nobody thinks it's like anything that's pressing then, so. Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Francisco, again for doing that. Christoph, do you want to provide some updates?
Yes, I can share my screen to show what one person in the team has been working on the Argo CD. Okay, so you should see my screen. So someone was updating the existing Argo CD upstream, and here they're just screenshots. So you can see that on the overview. Now we can see also the like the message. Especially if you have an error, you will be able to see from there what's happening if something is failing for the last activity. And in the history, also a lot more information are being displayed in the table. So you can see the author, the message, and then a few more information of when the job started, what time, how long it took. So that's pretty useful information. The PR is still in review. I think the build is still failing, so that's not it's not been merged yet, but that's in progress. And Yeah, for the showcase, don't know if we have it, so I'm probably going to just talk about it. We'll see if I can get it working. We've been working on an example for tech docs. So now when you go on the docs tab, you will be able to see an example of what we can do with the tech docs. We have a pipeline, so every time someone that is non-technical, we just update the documentation. That's going to automatically publish it to a S3 bucket. And we did another update. Let me check quickly on my list. Yeah, we added also more data. So now we have like resources on the showcase. So when you go to the entity relation page, like the dependencies tab, you will be able to see a lot more information from there. So that's also if you click, you can see more information between the resources, the system, the components. And that's it for the showcase. Still going to try to see if I can get it working. Oh, it's not. So I'm not sure. That was working last night, so we'll have to check.
Awesome. Who's next? Tom, I think you're up next.
Okay, so as you may or may not know, we've been working on a dynamic plugin system in Backstage Upstream lately. So I've put a link here to an RFC that we put forward through the upstream channels, and we have an upstream working group. For that, to back that RFC, we kind of put together an POC, which is like a not fully functional at this moment. It doesn't provide you all the front-end functionality that you may want in there, but it's at least demonstrating that it is possible. What we use for the dynamic plugins is a project called Sculprum. I'm gonna put a link in here, which is a dynamic plugin system framework that is already being used across Red Hat in multiple projects, and we want to bring the same to Backstage. So just to give you a glimpse how that looks like, I'm going to share my screen with you now and show you what we actually have here. So first things first, a bit of a terminal here. This left third of my screen is a running Backstage dev instance. It's the same that you get with running Yarn dev. On the middle part, we have from the same repository, from the same place, plugin running in an external mode, so through an HTTP server. And I'm actually going to switch that off for now, and I'm going to clean this third tab. This first tab is the same plugin running from a different repository, from a different place. So what do you have here? This window. This is the Backstage instance running, right? We have two tiles here, and if I'm going to refresh it, you will see that this will complain, this will error out. You have this dev overlay, this goes away in the production mode, and instead you will get an error message in the component itself. So we have two cards mounted here. One is the internally mounted component, internally mounted plugin in the Backstage code base, in the instance code base. It's a rate this entity plugin, a feedback plugin that allows you to basically provide some feedback for a component. I don't have the API up for that, but the component, the front-end part works. What doesn't work here is the external component, right? It doesn't work because it's not started. So if I'm going to start it from the same repository, what I'm doing now, I'm just running a very simple HTTP server running from a folder called this Sculprum, and we're going to get back to it in a moment. So what our new Backstage does now, it's going to load this component from the server. So instead of an error here, you see a completely mounted component, completely mounted piece of UI, which does the same, which works the same as the internal part. What we can do with this is that, for example, if I'm going to go into the plugin and I'm going to change something in the code base, well, let's guess what's going to happen if I'm going to place a string in here. That server will reload. It's going to reload in the internal part, but this one is still served from static assets from a server, right, running here. So if I'm going to rebuild this plugin and just this plugin only, and serve it again as a manifest, as a set of assets, I can get the new version in there. So let's just give it a few seconds. Hopefully my Google Meet is not eating too much of my performance here. It's not, so this is working here. So if I'm going to reload this page now, I will get an updated component here running externally. What I can do also is, okay, let's leave this at foo, and I'm going to change this in a completely different repository in a completely different place, right? So I'm going to put R here. Okay, so we have, it's the same file, we're editing it in a different place, in a different repository, and I'm going to just rebuild it and just going to hot replace this, this server. So I'm going to build a different set of assets here and just swap these assets that are available on that endpoint. I'm going to call the server, and I'm going to start the server here. And I'm being served a different component from a different endpoint, from a different place. So how we achieve this? We have a Sculprum mounted in our application as like a context, as a React context that is providing you with a list of all available plugins. These plugins are dynamically read from app config. So you have a dynamic plugins registry, and this is the package name, and this is where it can find the manifest location for the particle package. I will get to what manifest is in a moment. You can host the plugin either from an absolute URL on any other different domain, or you can host it through proxy, through Backstage proxy. So what we do here, we have Backstage proxy for this particle plugin, which is doing all the course magic and change origin and whatnot, and pointing to a local dev server running through this Backstage proxy, and basically allowing Backstage frontend to read manifests from this endpoint, which are actually being hosted on this target. So if I go to, I believe it was 803, we have a static list of assets here for this particle plugin for the entity feedback, and we have a plugin manifest here. Here it states what the plugin is about, where is the entry point, which assets file to load, what's the version, and whatnot. So you can, this manifest is a product of Sculprum. Sculprum understands it and allows you to basically reference whatever this package provides. This is referenced currently as a static component. We want to make this dynamic through the app config, through this other field called mounts. But for now, for this POC, we have it statically referenced here as a sculprum component, which basically states, hey, I'm pulling a component from this particle package, and I'm pulling this component exposed as like dislike buttons module. So we can read it from that, and we can mount it from that, and Sculprum will take care of the rest. This needs some configuration on plugin side, right? So we've covered what needs to be done on the instance itself, and now what needs to happen on the plugin side. All that needs to happen on the plugin side is to include a Sculprum key in the package JSON. We chose this key. We can change it in future iterations of this POC. It can be a separate file. It can be part of the package manifest. This is just for simplicity. Now it's a key in the package JSON. And it states how what's the name of the Webpack module being exposed, and what are the exposed modules. So now we are saying, hey, we have an exposed module called like dislike buttons, and you can find the component here during the build process. Backstage CLI build process, thanks to code that we added through this POC, understands this key and builds an additional set of assets here into this Sculprum folder. So it basically builds two different set of assets for the plugin during the build. One is the native Backstage build through rollup for plugins that is used to mount the plugins internally in an instance. That is not breaking, that is not changing, that stays the same. And we produce a different set of assets which can be hosted statically anywhere and move anywhere. And basically, this is the output of the Webpack module federation, including the plugin manifest, including the static data. And that's kind of about it for now. We can load components from an external source. We can update them asynchronously without actually installing the plugin into Backstage instance itself. What we need to solve next is dynamic mounting instead of like specifying the Sculprum component in code. And what we need to solve better is sharing packages, which needs to be singleton in that instance, during that we can't link in the build time into like multiple instances of dependencies, and solve the Backstage routing on front end, which is kind of tricky. That needs to happen, like the API routes and whatnot needs to be solved kind of cautiously because they are built statically. So we need to work around that. But that's the sake of POC. It's a work in progress, right? So that's where we are now. We have this possibility as of now, and we proposed this to Upstream. Upstream was not against it, which I think is a good sign. So we are moving forward with that, and we have an RFC in place in the Upstream community, and we will continue working on that. Any questions?
This is awesome. Great job.
I need to say this is not just my work. This is a work of also the Sculprum team, the Upstream Sculprum team that is working on this framework in Red Hat. So it's a great collaboration with them, and it wouldn't be possible to achieve this without them. So great, congratulations, or how to say it in English. Thanks to them. Thanks goes to them.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool. Oh, go ahead, Christoph. I just know Serena dropped, so someone has to. That's really, really great demo. Thanks so much. Christoph, did you want to jump in, or do you want me to?
Yeah, no, you can do it.
All right. So yeah, that was great. Thanks, Tom. I think the next up we have is Yuval about the topology view enhancements.
Yeah. I thought, so first of all, I want to say sorry in advance. You know, if you will hear shoutings, I have like 3 kids home and 4 of their friends. So if you will hear shoutings, just sorry for that. Let me share my screen for a second. I wanted to share with you some of the enhancements we did in the topology view for ODF that can be taken for Janus as well. Second. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great. So I would just give kind of some background, why we started even thinking about topology view, for ODF. And we got a lot of requests from customers that they wanted an easy way for troubleshooting, and they asked us, you have the topology view in the developer perspective, why not have something like that for the storage clusters that we're creating with ODF? And then we kind of thought, okay, if we would take this topology view, what we will be able to do in order to help them troubleshoot. And we didn't want to, put tons of information on screen. We wanted to kind of allow them to see a first view and then drill down to see more information if needed. So what we did here is one of the things is added a status indication for each resource that we're seeing on screen. This was not available in the topology view we had in the dev perspective. We wanted to allow the ability to drill down and group stuff by different labels, and each product or plugin or anything can create different grouping for resources. And we wanted to be able to troubleshoot easier from each level. So what you see here, are the 3 nodes that ODF storage cluster is using. Clicking on any of the items here, open the left panel, and we added an alerts section to quickly see, what's wrong with any resource that kind of associated with this node. So that's that. You can see the observe section and see some CPU and memory information and all of that. You can drill down to the next level, and then we decided to show all the deployments we have running on that node that kind of shows the different Ceph resources. And again, same as before, when clicking on that, I can see alerts relevant to each one of those deployments and get more information. I can quickly jump between the different resources I had in the previous levels. If I want to jump between nodes to see more information, I can easily do that. And yeah, that's practically what we did. And I think if we're thinking from backstage point of view, we can think of which level of information we want to expose to developers when going to topology, and which different groupings we want to allow in order to kind of see the information, and for which use cases, because there's different use cases. Why would I go to topology and use it? So yeah, like a quick FYI. Any questions? Okay, let's stop there.
Very cool. No questions for Yuval? No. Oh, Tom, go ahead.
So if I understand this correctly, there is intention to bring similar views to backstage, right? That's the idea here.
Yeah, so I'm just starting here, starting to help Serena and the team, from the UX design group. So probably, yeah, we will sit together and kind of think, which things we want to do in the future, and what we want to, expose to users. So yeah, probably some of that can be, can be taken to backstage as well. So yeah.
Good. That's great. Yeah, I was a bit confused why we are looking at data foundation and and talking about backstage, but
It's
yeah.
just sharing, some of stuff that other groups are doing in order to kind of, we can quickly integrate with them, take that code and implement that, solution.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I like the UI a lot. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks again, Yuval. And then the last person I see on the agenda is Oleg. Did you have something you wanted to share for the Quay plugin security edition?
Oh, I was just updating my status that I was now updating it under the advice of Tom, and just implementing the security feature where it shows you the security scans. That's about it. Nothing as exciting as what was just shown in the last two demos.
Okay, cool. No worries. All right. I'm just having a look. It looks like we're at the end of the agenda. Is there anything else anybody wanted to share with the community? Anything that they think folks might be interested in? No? All right. Good stuff. Well, that was a great set of demos. So thanks, folks, for sharing all those. And yeah, I guess this is it for our community call for this week. So we'll stop the recording and sign off, and we'll talk again in a few weeks. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See ya.